አመሰግናለሁ በጣም ለቃለ መጠይቅ ስለመጣህልኝ። መጀመሪያ ራስህን በማስተዋወቅ እንጀምርና ወደ ሌሎቹ ጥያቄዎች እንሄዳለን።
እሺ፣ ስሜ አቤል አመኔ ይባላል። ኢትዮጵያን የተወለድኩት እዚህ ሀገር ከኖርኩ ወደ 20 ዓመት ሆነኛል። ዲሲ አካባቢ መኖሬ። በእንግሊዝኛ በሚቀጥል ይሻለኛል፣ ምክንያቱም አንዳንዶቹ ማወራቸው ነገሮች እንግሊዝኛ ይሻላሉ። I'm the ANC commissioner for 4D02. ANC is the advisory neighborhood commissions in DC. They represent very small areas in DC. My area is about a 4-block radius around Kennedy and 5th Street. It's a neighborhood that I live in that I'm going to be representing in this advisory neighborhood commission. Outside of that, I'm a student. I'm a student at the University of Maryland, studying economics and physics. I'm also just a part-time organizer in the neighborhood around a lot of political issues having to do with voting rights, public safety, labor rights, and environmental justice. So that's just a little introduction about me. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity to speak with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for accepting my invitation as well. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What made you go into public office? Why did you decide to go into public office, and why now?
Yeah. I've been interested in politics and DC politics for a while now, especially since the COVID pandemic. I noticed, when the vaccine rollout happened, that there was a lot of barriers for people like us, people who don't, who come from Ethiopia or other African countries or not from this country, to get access to these resources, and seniors and also a lot of people were facing evictions. They were facing issues making a living and paying for their resources. So I got involved in helping people sign up for vaccines. I started a program around the neighborhoods, try to get to seniors and get them to help them in using the online platform, and also helping people get the state DC application submitted so that they can get some assistance to pay for their rent, so that they can stay in their homes. And through that, I became involved in politics, and more, I started to focus on the DC Council, and became interested in advocating for laws, and that's how I came up on this bill that was introduced by Brianne Nadeau, the Ward 1 council member, to give voting rights to non-citizens, so that it's no longer a requirement for someone to be a citizen of the U.S. to vote in local elections in DC. And when I became aware of this bill that was in the council, I started to advocate for it and ensure that it passed. And it did pass. And it passed about a year ago, and it has become law. And since then, now non-citizens, anyone who is living in DC, can register to vote. Not only can they register to vote, but they can also run for office. I myself, I'm not a citizen of the U.S. I am a non-citizen. I'm a green card holder, and I was able to be the first person to sign up to register to vote, and then I became the first person to also run for office and was elected to this position. And through that process, I've learned how it is very important for people like us to be able to to have a voice in how this district is, and how this government is run. And now that we have voting rights, we'll have a much more better say in how this city is governed. So I'm really excited about that. And that's more than anything, this is the reason that I wanted to run, is to make sure that continues to happen, that we have a voice in our government here in DC. Yeah.
So now you're elected for the ANC position as a non-citizen immigrant. How far can you take this? If, say, anyone that's interested to take it, how far can you take it up to a council level, up to the mayor's office? Where?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And there is, for any position that we vote for, we could also run for. So that includes, and then in the elections coming up, right? Non-citizens, people who are not a citizen of the U.S., will be able to vote for all DC positions. So that includes ANCs, right? That includes the council, the DC council, and that includes the mayor and the AG will be able to vote for those positions and and cast a ballot. We will not be able to vote in federal elections. So president, representatives, that like Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's a representative to the Congress, non-voting member, but that's a vote. We will not be able to vote for that. Or any other positions that are federal position, we will not be able to vote for. Similarly, we will be able, as you can see, I am an ANC commissioner. You can run for ANCs. We'll be able to run for council. We will also be able to run for mayor if we want, because the requirements of being a mayor is you still have to be a resident of DC for longer. I believe it's like 5 years you have to be to be a mayor. But as long as you meet that criteria and you are a registered voter, you will be able to run for mayor as well.
They were trying to pass a bill in 2022. I had a chance to have a conversation with Councilmember Brian Benadu. In fact, I had interviewed her on the same thing, because that same week, the same legislation was struck down in New York. Like some residents raised the issue, they struck it in New York, they're going to strike it down in DC as well. And there was this big conversation in Congress about the same issue. What's your suggestion for individuals that are confined in that thought process? Or
I mean, here's the thing. I never want to force anyone to register to vote. It is always a risk, right? If you with every population, when Black people started to register to vote, that was a risk to them. When any new people want to begin to register to vote and make their voices heard, there is some risk. So I never want to tamp down on people and say, no, you don't have to worry about anything. That's not the good mindset to have. I think people should consider this. The laws saying that non-citizens can vote in local elections have been around for actually centuries. It's as old as the United States itself. Before the 1900s, right? This idea of non-citizens and citizens was not even considered. Everybody who was a resident could just register to vote and vote. It was the idea of citizenship is a modern invention of in the United States, and the Constitution has no say in it. And actually, many states have constitutions that specifically say that non-citizens can vote, and these laws have been in existence for a while. Tacoma Park, which is just across the street from us, right? Actually, some of us actually live in Tacoma, has had non-citizen voting since 1999. So for 2 decades now, Tacoma Park has had it. There are many jurisdictions in Maryland, specifically in Maryland. Maryland seems to be the non-citizen voting state for some reason, and we love it. I lived in Maryland for a while, so I have a little affinity to it. The idea of non-citizen voting is not a new thing, and it's also been tested in the federal constitution and has come up, state. The federal constitution does not bar states or localities from giving non-citizens the right to vote, and the Supreme Court has affirmed that several times. I don't think non-citizen voting is going to go away. It's always been part of the United States. The United States has always had people moving here, and it's a country of immigrants. It's always been. So in that sense, like, I don't think it is something that is a big worry for me. But I understand when people are like, I'm going to wait a little while. I'm fine with it. You can wait a little while before you register, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to vote in 2024 is what I say.
One other thing that I've been raising this issue with, like, all the interviews I had with public office holders. Is there any plan for you now as an immigrant or a public office holder to get to this community and, you know, bring them to be more engaged in their civic duties?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is the language barrier, right? But like in our community, that is not as much as the barrier, right? You know, having more access, having more discussions about these political issues in Amharic would also be a huge help. But even more than that, it is also a sort of a something that's ingrained in us, that it actually doesn't actually do anything, that it doesn't work, right? That you can't actually influence what happens in these government buildings like the Wilson building, right? The belief that you know, that has been, it's sort of a disenfranchisement in itself, that that voting doesn't actually work, right? If you go and vote, you know, the same people win, the same people is what, and that is kind of true. The same people, the same class of people always hold these positions, and it's not people like us that have struggled, right? One thing, I mean, I would like to use myself as an example, right? I come from a very poor background, and I've, you know, struggled for most of my life, and here I am in a position of, you know, some relative power. It's probably most powerless, you know, position, but like, if I can achieve that, think of what else we could achieve, right? And also to realize that in some ways these decisions have huge effects, right? Let's take, for example, food stamps, right? Right now, the council is fighting with the mayor about these food stamps, and this is funding that the DC Council appropriated. They passed the law to give all food stamp recipients an extra bonus, you know, an extra amount per month, so that they can pay for their, you know, for their groceries and things like that. And now the mayor is basically trying to steal that away and give it to other resources, right? Things that she thinks are important, you know, I don't know, maybe downtown development, which is what she often does want. And who we elect for the mayor, who we elect for the council, has that kind of like direct effect in our pockets. When we give voting rights to people from our backgrounds, right? What it does is it has a huge effect of like, now we can say, no, you can't do that, and have our voices heard in the council and the Wilson building, and make sure that we have the right people that represent our interests, right? Not the interests of the rich downtown crew, but like people that are, you know, struggling to make ends meet and make a living. So for these reasons, the best way for us to be engaged in this is to first vote.
I have a couple of questions left. One is, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Where do I see myself in 10 years? Well, I mean, I'm right now trying to get my undergraduate degree, and after that, hopefully go to law school. And, you know, I do want to continue to work in the public field, but, you know, I don't know if it's actually in, you know, an elected office that I want to do that. I am, you know, I'm very interested in going into legislative advocacy and making sure that we write good laws. That is where my interest is. I want to continue to work to, you know, pass laws that are transformative, like this, you know, not like giving non-citizens to vote, but also on a lot of issues like environmental justice and healthcare and a lot of fields like that. So I want to continue to work in that. I want to continue to work in law, and creating laws that serve our community instead of that serve the ruling class and the you know, the for-profit industries that sometimes rule our city. So I want to make sure we have laws that think about working class people like us and that serve us. And that's where I mostly want to go into is helping draft those sort of laws and make sure that they pass. So you're much more likely to see me, you know, I'm hoping to work in, either in the nonprofit field or in public service, but something I'm going to be much more working behind the scenes. I hope and passing legislation that transforms the city. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Awesome. I am done with my part, but if there is any other message that we have forgotten, or if there is anything you want to say to the community, it's gonna be your friend.
Yeah, I want to encourage people to vote and to register to vote. Right now, if you are a non-citizen, all you need to prove is that you've been a resident of DC for 30 days, and you can register. So if you have a DC ID, that's an easy way to get SNAP benefits, or you get any kind of...
Do you need to be a green card holder, or...?
No, you do not need to be a green card holder. You can, any non-citizen, whatever your status is, asylum, whatever, undocumented, it doesn't matter. You can register to vote. I would advise people to, if you are a green card holder like myself, it's not that much of a risk. I would encourage you to definitely register to vote. If you have other statuses, I would ask that you speak to get some legal counsel on what that means and talk about the risks of that. But I would still encourage anyone of any status to register to vote if they feel safe. And then we, come July, vote. Go out there and vote is what I want to encourage people to do. And I also want to encourage people to run for AMC offices, the AMCs. There's many vacancies across the city. In your locality, there might be a vacancy that you could fill, serve in that. And also just to, assert yourself and speak to your council members, speak to elected officials on all the issues that you would like addressed. That's what I would encourage people to do is to register to vote and participate in the elections, in either by running or by just voting. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Abel. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. I actually want to add one more thing.
Sure.
Just to take this opportunity. I don't know when this will air or anything, but the emergency rental assistance program is reopening on January 2nd. I want to just make sure people are aware of that. January 2nd, they'll be accepting applications. Yeah. And even if it's just a short-term thing that you just, are struggling now because you're in between jobs, use it, apply for it, and get that rental assistance.
Sure.
Especially if you're facing eviction, it stops the eviction. By just applying for it, it stops the eviction. Yeah, by just applying for it, it stops the eviction. So yeah, definitely apply. Even if if you just need some more time to pay, you will have it. Yeah.
All right, Abel. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And Happy New Year. I really, really appreciate it.
Happy New Year to you.
I hope I'm going to see you soon.
Yes.